All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. In tonight's video, day 2 of the tampering period is officially coming to a close, and tomorrow free agency technically begins, but the Raiders have already made a bunch of moves. We're talking about value. That's the biggest thing. So you're seeing some of these moves like Elandon Roberts on a $3 million a year contract. We just saw Eric Stokes, Green Bay Packers cornerback, get signed to a $4 million a year contract. We saw Jeremy Chinn get 2 years, $8 million a year contract. But people are freaking out because they've lost Divine Diablo. They've lost Morik. They've lost Robert Spillane. They've lost a couple of defensive starters. They've also gained some, but they have saved like over $40 million losing some of these starters last year. And they've signed players at a more, or I should say, like a better value as far as contracts go. So keep in mind, Geno Smith, his extension, brand new quarterback for this team. They're making really smart moves. And you kind of, you're spent like, John Spytek, the new GM for Las Vegas Raiders, right? Pete Carroll, the new head coach. We were wondering how this team was going to enter free agency with so many new faces and so many guys entering unrestricted free agency, specifically on the defense. And I got to say, I really like some of these moves. And, there's even some rumblings because some of these guys that they might even change the scheme. Keep in mind, Pete Carroll, Dan Quinn, Jeremy Chinn. There's a linkage between all three of those guys. So before we get any further into tonight's video, hit that like button, hit that sub button for me, post daily Raiders and NFL content. Try and get this one to 100 likes, folks. It goes a very long way. So Jeremy Chinn's probably my favorite move the Raiders have made so far in the first 2 days. He's coming off a career year. He signed a 1-year, $4 million contract this time last season with the Washington Commanders to be with Dan Quinn. He spent the previous 4 seasons, aka his first 4 seasons in the NFL, with the Carolina Panthers. Now, this past season, he had 117 total tackles. 7 of those were for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception, and made a huge impact on a playoff team. He's very tough, very hard hitting. He loves to hit, kind of a lost art in today's National Football League. He's 6'3", 220 pounds, but he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. His versatility is off the charts. He can line up at numerous positions. It's almost like there's not a position on the defense that he can't line up. He kind of, essentially, because of how often he was in the box last year, he kind of was like an extra linebacker for the Commanders last season. And so, obviously, Merrick is with the Carolina Panthers now, and he's getting like $16 million a year. Well, they replace him with Jeremy Chinn on a 2-year, $16 million contract. So I think Patrick Graham is going to love Jeremy. Very versatile guy, extremely versatile guy, and he should seamlessly fit in with Pete Carroll because he thrived under Dan Quinn with the Washington Commanders, and Dan Quinn used to be an assistant under Pete Carroll in Seattle. And then we move on over, staying on the defensive side, to Elandon Roberts. This is probably my second favorite move outside of like maybe re-signing Malcolm Kuntz, because I think Elandon's a stud. I watch a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers football the last couple of seasons, and like 2023, for example, Elandon Roberts, 101 tackles, 2.5 sacks 2 years ago with Pittsburgh. 1 year, $3 million contract is an absolute steal. So I know they lost Robert Spillane, and they just picked up Elandon Roberts, who's primarily a better run defensive guy, right? Still a leader, but better in the run, just like Jeremy Chinn. So that's kind of why I'm saying, like, kind of feels like the Raiders' defensive scheme might be changing here, or it's about to change for this upcoming season. But last year, he played all 17 games for Pittsburgh. He finished only with 46 tackles, but he only played, or I guess he played 44% of the defensive snaps. And he also overlapped with Raiders defensive line coach Rob Leonard when they were with the Miami Dolphins from 2020 to 2021. So there's some familiarity there, which is another thing we were wondering heading into free agency is how many previous guys, just kind of the linkage, pretty much what I just said. Anyways, moving forward, then you have Lonnie Johnson, and he kind of fits in a similar bill for me personally with Eric Stokes, who they just picked up in the last hour, where Lonnie, when he plays, is an absolute beast. And so he agreed, this is coming from the Carolina Panthers. He's largely been a special teams guy in the last few seasons. In fact, he hasn't started multiple games in a year since 2021. Like in the last 15 games last season, he He played only 13 defensive snaps for Carolina, but he had 339 special team snaps. So I think the Raiders, according to league sources, view him as a high-level backup and a very big special teams player. But one thing about Lonnie is there's question marks. Is he a safety? Is he a nickel, defensive back? Another just versatile defensive guy, whether he's at safety, whether he's in the nickel, whether he's special teams guy, another versatile piece for this coaching staff. And then, speaking of Eric Stokes, they just signed him on a 1-year, $4 million contract. And, last year was underwhelming, but it's very similar in the sense with Lonnie, where when these guys are healthy, there's a lot of potential. And maybe with Eric Stokes, a change of scenery is all that he really needed. So last year, like I said, fully healthy finally for the Green Bay Packers. He only started 7 games. He only had 41 tackles, didn't even record a pass deflection, but he just turned 26. This is a former first-round draft pick in 2021, the 29th overall pick. He's very fast guy. 32 NFL starts, started 14 as a rookie, and then 9 in his sophomore campaign with Green Bay, but then just 9 in the last 2 seasons. And the reason why is because literally only injuries. He missed a total of 22 games in 2022 and 2023 combined due to injuries. So just like Lonnie, if this guy can stay on the roster, if he could stay on the field, he'll stay on the roster and make an impact whenever his name is called. Good camp guy as well. And then 2 of just re-signs, but some of the bigger news for the Raiders thus far in free agency. Malcolm Kuntz, 1-year, $12 million contract yesterday on Monday. Now, if you remember, he missed all of 2024 with a torn ACL, but 2023 season, he had 8 sacks, and 7 of those came in the second half of the NFL, which was the 6th most in the league over that span. So next year, you have Malcolm Kuntz, Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, still got Tyree Wilson. Hopefully he can break out a little bit here. And then also on Monday, or maybe it was Sunday, Adam Butler, 3-year contract worth $16.5 million with only $11 million guaranteed, 30 years old. Last year he was angry with how free agency went when he signed only a 1-year contract. Responded unbelievably, career high 858 snaps, career high 10 total quarterback hits, and also helped mentor Tyree Wilson. So 2 huge moves that the rest of the league is completely unaware of the impact Adam Butler and Malcolm Kuntz have on the Raiders defensive line. And it's just kind of a scary thought, because the big time splash came this time last year when they made a move for Christian Wilkins, who unfortunately barely played last season. So this team is fully healthy, ready to go, and they've got one of, if not the best defensive line in the National Football League, and nobody really knows it except for the Las Vegas Raiders. Folks, that's it for me. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily Raiders content. Give me a grade on their free agency thus far. Let me know any targets you're keeping an eye on as free agency officially begins tomorrow, but that's it for me. Peace.